Here are the top stories for today, October 22, 2021. The Health Department allays concerns over reports of a sublineage of the COVID-19 Delta variant, which has been detected in other countries, but advises the public not to let their guard down and get vaccinated. Vaccination going full blast. The Philippines gets more Pfizer, Sputnik V, and AstraZeneca jobs as it continues to double down on efforts to achieve population protection. The palace clarifies minors in Metro Manila cannot roam freely as they please, as they can only go out for exercises and essential purposes, amid the Metro Mayor's nod on the interzonal and intrazonal travel. And the Labor Department will issue compliance orders to some 1,300 firms who failed to give their employees 13th month pay. It reminds that the payment of the benefit is mandatory. Good day, I'm Marita Muahe. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. No presence yet of another Delta variant in the country. The Health Department made the statement following reports on the increase of sublineage AY.4.2 in the United Kingdom and its detection in other countries. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire said the department is closely monitoring its presence, especially now that the country slowly and safely reopens the economy. She said as of this moment, experts are still studying the potential impact of the Delta sublineage on the transmissibility and severity of COVID-19. And while this is being investigated, she said all COVID-19 cases should be managed similarly and as per current protocols. More Filipinos are assured of getting inoculated against COVID-19 as the country received over 2 million more doses of COVID-19 vaccines. First to arrive last night is the 1,014,390 doses of Pfizer vaccines, of which 800,000 landed at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. 100,620 doses arrived in Cebu, while another 100,620 doses are allocated for the Davao region. Shortly after, a total of 400,000 doses of Russian-made Sputnik V vaccine arrived at the NAIA Terminal 3. And just this morning, a total of 698,600 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine procured by the private sector arrived at the NAIA Terminal 1. Galvez said the Japanese government will donate another 1.9 million doses of vaccines, which will increase Tokyo's total vaccine donation to Manila to 3 million. With improving vaccination rates in Metro Manila, Galvez expressed confidence that population protection will be attained by the middle or end of November. He said the president has instructed all local government units and provincial officials to scale up or fast-track their vaccination programs to make use of all available jobs. Galvez also advised the local government units outside Metro Manila not to worry about having sufficient vaccine supply in their areas, as the government's distribution plan is already in place. He said among their strategies is to deploy all the sensitive vaccines to the urban population with enough electricity and cold chain system, as Pfizer, Moderna, and Sputnik V requires sub-zero temperatures to avoid vaccine spoilage. He also said that the government will put up more vaccination sites nationwide to achieve the target of up to 1.5 million doses per day. The second phase of the COVID-19 vaccination for minors in Metro Manila has started today. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya earlier said that they are targeting to vaccinate some 144,131 minors aged 15 to 17 and will prioritize those with comorbidities. More on this from Chris Crismundo.
In San Juan City, about 140 minors with comorbidities were inoculated at the Cardinal Santos Medical Center. DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya is there to witness the pilot inoculation of children along with San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora, National Task Force Consultant Dr. Ted Herbosa, and Health Undersecretary Dr. Roger Tong-An. Online registration for pediatric vaccination has been ongoing in the city since last month. In Marikina City, over 300 minors with comorbidities received their COVID-19 shot today at the Marikina Sports Complex. In Manila, about 23,354 vaccines have been reserved for the vaccine rollout for children aged 12 to 7 years. Of the allocated vaccines, 22,854 are Pfizer, while the remaining 500 are Moderna. Mandaluyong City also starts its vaccination rollout for children. The local government reminds those who have registered to wait for a call from Mandavax to verify their registration. They will also receive a text message for their schedule and time slot. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Children below 18 years old are still generally not allowed to go out in Metro Manila despite the easing of restrictions. In a press briefing, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said children are still not allowed to be out in public, especially in indoor areas because they are not yet vaccinated and are still susceptible to the virus. Exempted to the rule are those who need to obtain essential goods and services.
Opo, kasi hindi pa sila bakunado. Kaya susceptible pa rin sila. No? So hindi naman binago ang rule. No? Kung kinakailangan dahil ito po yung necessity, no? Para bumili ng gamot, bumili ng pagkain, para magtrabaho, ay hindi naman po sila pinagbabawalan.
Meanwhile, MMDA Chairperson Benhur Abalos Jr. said intrazonal and interzonal travel shall be allowed subject to reasonable restrictions based on age and comorbidities as may be determined by the local government units. Outdoor exercises may also be allowed regardless of vaccination status.
May dagdag ko lang, ang specific dito will be Section 4, Article 1. Pagdating sa outdoor exercises, kay bakunado, kay hindi, of all ages, po pwede po ito.
Amid the decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila, the Philippine National Police reports that the number of areas placed under granular lockdown has climbed to 105. The Eastern Police District topped the list with 42 areas in 17 villages. Quezon City Police District, 27 areas in 19 villages. Manila Police District, 24 areas in 19 villages. Southern Police District, 10 areas in 1 village. And the Northern Police District with 2 areas in 2 villages. A total of 322 police personnel and 251 force multipliers were deployed to secure these areas. The Israeli government is looking forward to hosting a group of Filipino experts to share firsthand its strategies and technologies in effectively dealing with the spread of COVID-19. Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Ilan Flas, said the planned visit would happen sometime next month as their medical experts want to share their innovations and developments to curb the spread of COVID-19. Israel has been hailed for its rapid vaccination drive, successfully inoculating 70.7% of its population as of October 19. It was also among the first countries to roll out booster shots after experiencing a dramatic increase in its COVID-19 cases last June and July, despite the number of its fully vaccinated citizens. Last July, a team of Israeli medical experts also visited Manila to share their success in the national vaccination campaign, which was followed by another group in August. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the emergency use of booster doses by Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. In a statement, the U.S. FDA says it has approved the use of each of the available COVID-19 vaccines as a mix and match booster dose. The agency said the use of a single booster dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine may be administered at least 2 months after completion of the single-dose primary regimen to individuals 18 years old and above. Meanwhile, the Moderna vaccine may also be used as a booster shot at least 6 months after getting the second dose. This is for 65 years old and above, and for those over 18 years old and working in risky jobs. The FDA is expected to decide in the coming weeks whether to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for children aged 5 to 11. Still to come, the DFA says 72% of the Duterte administration's diplomatic protests against China have been filed this year. And moving closer to a brighter future, some 1.6 million students benefit from free college education under the Duterte administration. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Ito ang Fast 5. Mayroon tayong 5 minuto para tanungin ang mga eksperto tungkol sa COVID-19.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Anna Ong Lim and I'm with the DOH Technical Advisory Group.
Anong mga sintomas ng COVID-19 ang pwede i-treat sa bahay?
So napakagandang tanong. Ang mga mild symptoms, pinakakaraniwan pa rin siya sa mga nararamdaman ng mga taong nagpa-positive sa COVID-19. Kasama na dito yung lagnat, ubo, sipon, pananakit ng katawan, yung iba nagtatae. Pinaka-importante talaga is bantayan yung hirap sa paghinga kasi once sumumpong na yon, hindi na natin pwedeng sabihin mild and definitely kailangan na siguro nila makita sa ospital o makita ng kanilang doktor.
Paano natin malalaman kung pwede tayo mag-home isolation?
Magandang mapag-usapan ng home isolation kasi lalo na ngayon, no, maraming mga taong nasa mga TTMFs or quarantine facilities or even sa hospital. And for as long as yung ating pamamahay ay may sariling lugar or isang silid na kung saan pwedeng mamalagi yung may sakit, and mas maganda rin sana na may sarili siyang magagamit na banyo.
Ano naman ang pwede kong gawin kung meron akong lagnat?
Ang lagnat ng COVID is not any different kumpara dun sa lagnat na nadala ng ibang sakit. Kino-consider natin na may lagnat ng isang tao pagka ang kanyang temperatura ay 37.5 pataas. Now, typically, kung meron tayong lagnat, iniinuman lang naman natin to ng paracetamol. Karaniwan, isang tableta tuwing ika-4 hanggang ika-6 na oras.
Ano naman ang home treatment para sa sore throat?
Ang sore throat, karaniwan, ginagamot lang natin yan using supportive care. So tulad na lang ng saline gargles or pagmumog, no, ng water na may konting asin, o kaya pwede ring gumamit ng mga menthol preparations or menthol candies para lang medyo maibsan yung pananakit ng lalamunan.
Ano naman ang warning signs ng paglala ng mga sintomas?
Ang pinaka-importanting bantayan sa mga simptomas na lumalala na related to COVID-19 is really yung hirap sa paghinga. Pwede rin yun na rin na magdala nung confusion, pwede rin yung mga simptomas tulad ng sobrang panghihina kasi halos hindi na makakain, hindi makainom, no? So yung mga ganong klaseng signs, kailangan siyang masubaybayan ng healthcare professional.
Paano ko naman maiiwasang mahawaan ang mga kasama ko sa bahay?
Pinaka-importante dun sa iisipin natin pag tayo nag-isolate is dapat talaga nakabukod tayo sa ibang tao. So, dun lang tayo sa ating silid, dun na tayo kakain, hindi na tayo lalabas hanggang makatapos ng 10 araw. Now, kung tayo naman ay nasa isang lugar na shared bathroom pa rin ang ating ginagamit, sana yung surfaces ng banyo tulad nung yung doorknobs, yung faucet, yung pinaka-surface ng lababo, at saka yung pinag-upuan natin sa inidoro, pupunasan muna natin yan bago natin iwanan ng banyo para yung susunod na gagamit, hindi naman mahawaan ng ating mga secretions o yung mga tilamsik ng ating laway kung sakasakali naman ay tayo ang gumamit ng banyo.
Sino po ang pwedeng kausapin kung may karagdagang mga tanong pa ako?
Maraming resources sa ating mga communities at napakaraming health workers na handang tumulong. No? So unang-una na siguro doon yung ating mga BHERTs, no? Sila naman ay naabisuhan, o yung mga midwives or nurses sa ating community, even our local health center physicians, they're always ready to help us with our questions.
Maraming salamat, Doc Ana. May mga paalala pa po ba kayo?
Karamihan karamihan pa rin naman sa mga kababayan natin nagpa-positive for COVID ay nabibilang dun sa mild and asymptomatic category. So, mukha namang kaya, no? Most of the time, nababantayan itong ating mga kapamilya within the home. Ang importante lang, siguro, habang maaga, meron ng link to telemedicine o kaya nakausap natin yung ating mga barangay or community healthcare workers para kung sakasakalit medyo lumala yung lagay ng ating kapamilya ay nakaset up na kung anong susunod nating gagawin. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat and mag-ingat po tayo.
Bida Solusyon Plus laban sa COVID-19.
The Department of Foreign Affairs says 72% of the government's diplomatic protests against China have already been filed this year. The agency made the disclosure a day after it posted on Twitter a statement protesting China's provocative acts against Philippine authorities patrolling the country's waters. DFA Assistant Secretary Eduardo Meñez says a total of 153 out of the 211 note verbal over Chinese actions in the South China Sea have already been filed. He said the Chinese side has so far responded to 151 note verbal. Meñez says the latest protest was issued on September 30 when China has illegally restricted Filipino fishermen from conducting legitimate fishing activities in the Scarborough Shoal. The armed forces of the Philippines cited the need for joint exercises such as the Dagat Langit Lupa or Dagitpa in boosting Filipino troops' warfighting competencies. AFP Chief of Staff General Jose Faustino Jr. said continuous military education and training are indispensable to the armed forces. Dagitpa refers to the unilateral maneuver that seeks to further enhance land, air, and maritime assets in joint interoperability operations. Over 1,000 active personnel and reservists will participate in the annual joint exercise. Most of this year's training activities will be held from November 4 to 18 in the areas of Visayas Command and the AFP General Headquarters in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City. All face-to-face activities during AHEX Dagitpa will be carried out with strict adherence to health protocols to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Over 1.6 million students who have benefited from the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, or UAQTEA, would be graduating in 2022. Republic Act 10931, which was signed by President Rodrigo Duterte in 2017, promotes quality education by providing free tuition in universities, colleges, and state-run technical vocational institutions. The components of the UAQTEA are the free tuition and miscellaneous fees, and tertiary education subsidy, or TES, which is given to 4-piece families. The TES also covers students who are studying or staying in city or municipalities where there are no public universities. The loan program targets the students who are children of overseas Filipino workers who are unable to pay for academic expenses on time. Commissioner on Higher Education Chair Prospero de Vera III said more than 200 state colleges and universities have participated in the government's program. De Vera said the best investment the administration has done is to invest in young people who will become highly educated individuals. President Rodrigo Duterte on Thursday emphasized the vital role of infrastructure development in the full reopening of the Philippine economy amid the COVID-19 pandemic. In a speech delivered in Lucena, Quezon, Duterte said pursuing more infrastructure projects in the countryside would lead to inclusive growth. He added that greater productivity and progress can be achieved through improved mobility, including efficient access to goods and services. Duterte attended the opening and inauguration of Sariaya Bypass Road, a 7.4-kilometer road project that starts at the Manila South Roads, Daang Maharlika Road, and ends at the Quezon Eco-Tourism Road. The President praised the Department of Public Works and Highways and its partners for the completion of the project. He expressed confidence that it would spur the growth of industries and business opportunities in the Quezon Province. The Sariaya Bypass Road is expected to cater to around 15,000 motorists and commuters going daily to different provinces in the southern Tagalog region. The Department of Labor and Employment defended an interagency task force resolution requiring employees in some establishments to get vaccinated. Secretary Silvestre Bello III said this includes restaurants and spas. In Resolution number 138, the IATF adopted the use of the alert level system for COVID-19, with each alert level limiting restrictions only to identified high-risk activities. Restaurants and spas are among businesses that fall under the 3 C's, or closed, crowded, and close contact principle, which means the possibility of transmission in these establishments is high. Bello, however, reiterated that there is still no legal basis for mandatory COVID-19 vaccination for all workers. The chairman of the House Committee on Labor and Employment, meanwhile, rejected the policy of making COVID-19 vaccination a mandatory condition for workers. One Pacman Party List Representative Enrico Pineda said the no job policy is not right because vaccination should not be forced upon people. He said this allowing someone from working on the basis of one's choice not to be vaccinated violates their basic right to free will. He said he believes that neither the government nor an employer should be able to dictate what individuals must do to their bodies. For his part, Rizal Representative Fidel Nograles called on the DOLE to investigate employers imposing the no vaccine, no salary scheme, as it unduly penalizes workers who have no access to COVID-19 vaccines. About 1,300 companies have reportedly been unable to pay the 13th month pay of their workers last year. The Department of Labor and Employment said it will be issuing compliance orders to these companies. Labor Undersecretary Ana Dione also reported that some 14,000 firms have complied with the mandatory payment of 13th month pay. Last week, the Department of Trade and Industry said its financing arm, a small business corporation, is preparing a loan program to help micro and small businesses provide employees with their 13th month pay. Meanwhile, many employers in the Philippines are planning to recalibrate their employee benefits strategy, as shown in a survey conducted by global advisory company Willis Towers Watson this year. In its 2021 Benefits Trend Survey, 76% of local employers are planning to customize their employees' benefit programs over the next 2 years. Willis Towers Watson said employers are pressured to manage their benefits costs while finding ways to support their employees' well-being amid the prevailing pandemic. The survey also said 86% cited employee emotional well-being as their top priority over the next 2 years, followed by physical well-being at 76% and social well-being at 73%. In our business news, the easing of travel restrictions has shown to have positive impacts on the Philippine real estate market. Lee Chu Property Consultants CEO David Lee Chu said one of the outcomes of relaxing travel restrictions for foreigners is the comeback of Philippine offshore gaming operators, or POGOs. The POGO sector has given up around 30 to 40% of office space and a higher rate of vacancy in residential space amid the COVID-19 pandemic. He said they anticipate POGOs to start reopening their offices and grow by the second quarter of 2022. The easing of travel restrictions is also attracting business process outsourcing companies to expand in the Philippines. Most of these BPO companies are in the healthcare sector, coming from the United States and Europe. Meanwhile, infrastructure projects being established by the government will attract more tourists to the country and will boost the tourism market. More stories from the newsroom. No cuddling of airing cups. The palace makes this clear as the Justice Department releases a matrix on anti-illegal drug operations involving deaths. And we give you a rundown of the benefits of getting a national ID. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work.
Malacanang said the release of information on the 52 drug war-related deaths shows that President Rodrigo Duterte is not soft on police officers who might have violated human rights. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said this information from the Department of Justice will facilitate case build-up by the National Bureau of Investigation for the filing of charges against erring police officers. Roque expressed confidence that more evidence will be gathered against the policemen involved. He reiterated that the DOJ report shows the government is doing its obligation to protect the right to life. Roque also justified the need for Duterte's clearance before these reports are released, saying these are live cases subject to police investigation. In several speeches, Duterte has assured police officers of protection as long as killings were done in the line of duty. However, he said the government will continue to go after police officers who violate the law. Authorities in North Cotabato arrested Thursday morning a mayoral candidate for possession of illegal drugs. The suspect was identified as Tom Nandang, also known as Datuko Nandang, who is temporarily residing in Barangay Upper Glad 1 in Midsayap. Nandang was the subject of a search warrant served by agents of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, Midsayap Police, and elements of the Army's 34th Infantry Battalion. Nandang did not resist arrest but vehemently denied he was into illegal drugs. PDEA agents seized 10 huge sachets of suspected shabu worth around 5 million pesos and a .45 caliber pistol from Nandang. In Bacolod City, police arrested 3 drug personalities who yielded suspected shabu valued at 112,000 pesos in a series of buy-bust operations on Wednesday. Suspect Reggie Saberon Edianel was arrested in a buy-bust operation in Purok Rosas, Pandan, Barangay Banago. Drug enforcers also apprehended Ferlin Amarela Parandas in Purok Pedring, Barangay Estefania. Meanwhile, Marjo Salado Garcia was arrested in Barangay Tangub while selling shabu to an undercover policeman. The Bacolod City Police Office reported that they have confiscated about 59.8 grams of shabu worth around 406,000 pesos from October 1 to 15. 22 street-level drug personalities and 1 high-value individual were arrested. President Rodrigo Duterte on Thursday said there are now fewer new People's Army activities taking place since the creation of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict and its regional task forces. Duterte said the Communist Party of the Philippines, NPA, continues to perpetuate violence but in a very small scale this time. Because of this, he said the national government is winning the war against communist insurgency. Duterte also said the anti-FLCAC made great efforts to convince communist rebels to return to the fold of the law. He, however, reminded task force officials to focus also in uplifting the conditions of the citizens in isolated and disadvantaged areas through its barangay development program. In Agusan del Sur, the government's sincerity in helping former rebels convinced a couple to leave the New People's Army and surrender to authorities on Wednesday. The couple, identified only through their aliases Ahmad and Nam, claimed to be members of the NPA North Central Mindanao Regional Committee. Ahmad has been in the communist movement from 2004 until June 2021, while Nam was a leader in the now dismantled Guerrilla Front 4A from 2015 until 2018. Brigadier General Romeo Karamat Jr., Director of Police Regional Office 13, urged the remaining rebels in the Caraga region to surrender and avail of the support offered by the government. The Philippine Statistics Authority encouraged Filipinos anew to register for a PhilSys national ID as it cited the reasons to get one and use it in everyday life. The national ID paves the way for streamlined information of an individual, including his address, telephone number, driving records, loans, and others. Once the PhilID becomes fully operational, there is no more need to present other valid IDs when transacting with government and private entities such as GSIS, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, or voters registration. National ID verification is speedy, secure, and foolproof as guaranteed by the PhilSys Act. The PSA also reiterated registration for Philippine ID is free of charge. However, an individual needs to pay in case the PhilID is lost and needs replacement, destroyed, or some entries are to be added or changed. The Philippine Sports Commission is set to rehabilitate the Mindanao State University's swimming pool this year as part of the national government rehabilitation program for Marawi City. The PSC said the plan is to rehabilitate the facility to meet international standards for competition. A covered pool is being designed in consideration of the environment and cultural sensitivity of Islamic practices. The MSU swimming pool played host to several national UAAP competitions in the early 80s, as well as other regional meets. The PSC also inspected the newly rubberized MSU track oval, which was also refurbished with the agency's support. MSU President Dr. Habib Makaayo thanked the PSC and the national government for its all-out support to the university and the people of Lanao. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The Health Department allays concerns over reports of a sublineage of the COVID-19 Delta variant, which has been detected in other countries, but advises the public not to let their guard down and get vaccinated. Vaccination going full blast. The Philippines gets more Pfizer, Sputnik V, and AstraZeneca jobs as it continues to double down on efforts to achieve population protection. The palace clarifies minors in Metro Manila cannot roam freely as they please, as they can only go out for exercises and essential purposes, amid the Metro Mayor's nod on the interzonal and intrazonal travel. And the Labor Department will issue compliance orders to some 1,300 firms who failed to give their employees 13th month pay. It reminds that the payment of the benefit is mandatory. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. It's 64 days before Christmas, and thus there's no need to rush as we still have enough time to buy our gifts for our loved ones. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muaje. Stay safe and have a good day.